All right, just want to point out a few more things here. So, I've been talking about Back to the Future and also the Curse of the Billy Goat dealing with the Chicago Cubs. And just want to point out here that October 21st, 2015 at 4:29 p.m. is when they go to the future in 2015. And that's the day they find out that the Cubs swept the World Series. Anyway, as I was looking through here then, so the Cubs advanced, and they play the Mets, and on Wednesday, October 21st then, the Back to the Future day, the Mets play at Chicago on October 21st. So, interesting, it's also Game 4. Remember, the Curse of the Billy Goat actually happened in Game 4 on October 6th, kind of like 10-6 or 106. It's been 106 years since the Cubs have won the World Series. And in I Pet Goat 2, Obama winks at 106 in this video. Obama is, him and Abraham Lincoln are the only presidents that politically came out of Illinois. I also talked about a lot of the 45 references. Love is 54, so the backwards of love is evil, which is 45. On this chalkboard, they have the evil and whatever. I talked about that. But I also showed that Cubs is 45, and Back to the Future, the Cubs beat Miami. Miami is 45. The Cubs play at Wrigley Field. Wrigley, 45. Just the word 45 equals the mirror, 54, and 54 equals 54. And remember, the Curse of the Billy Goat happened on 10-6 in 1945, and it was by Billy Sianis, who actually died will be 45 years ago on October 22nd this year. So the day after this Game 4 is played will be the 45th anniversary of the guy who put the Curse of the Billy Goat onto the Cubs. Anyway, what I find really interesting about this game here on October 21st, literally the date numerology is 10 plus 21 plus 15, which adds up to 46. That's super interesting dealing with that the game is in Chicago. Because literally, Chicago Cubs adds up to 46. Just Chicago adds up to 46. The word 46 adds up to 46. And the reason I have 41 written in here, 41 equals 46, but the game is played on TBS. And TBS adds up to 41. 41 is also a number I've been talking about over and over and over. Literally, you have Skull and Bones. They've been coding it a lot in the Nebraska game. Husker fans, I think black shirts. And I said a lot of this coding all has to do with Abraham Lincoln. And Abraham Lincoln, that's the tie to Illinois. And they even foreshadowed Bush and Carter. Well, it was Bush, I would assume 41, Bush 41. There's just been lots of coding with 41, 14 and 17 and 71. Also wanted to point out Chicago Cubs. Well, Chicago Bus, what in the world? Chicago Cubs in simple gematria is 91, and the Cubs' record this year against the Mets is 7-0. So literally going into this Game 4 here, it could technically be 9-1 because in the Curse of the Billy Goat, they actually they were up 2-1, and then they ended up losing Game 4 because the Goat got kicked out in the 4th inning of Game 4 even. The 44 reference, Obama, the 44th president. So anyway, just pointing that out, I'm wondering if the series is going to be Cubs 2-1 going into that game. Maybe they're just going to sweep it and then fit the Back to the Future thing. Maybe that will be the game where they win 4-0 or whatever. It would make them 11-0 against the Mets. So who knows? Also, I talked about these 45s. Forgot to mention that Obama just turned 54 years old this year. And Michael J. Fox also just turned 54 this year. Even the word Illinois. Sorry for backtracking here, but Illinois is 45, and then with the S exception, it's also 54. Also, this game will be Game 4 then, Game 4 in Gematria is 86, and also it's 41. Interesting because Wrigley Field is even on 41 degrees north. 87 west, I mean, who knows? Pretty close to 86, but I mean, interesting that it would even be the 41. Literally even says that its capacity is 41,000, 41,160, and the address is 1060 West Addison, kind of like the 106 of the curse. And even opened in 1914, literally the mirror of 41. Some other interesting stuff about this day, October 21st. It's the 294th day of the year with 71 days remaining. And I talked about all these 71 and 17 things that I noticed in the Nebraska football games. Even the word Catholic is 71. World War III, Federal Reserve. The word 71 even, 71, literally is 45. And also 144. And I've talked about Chicago or Illinois in general because of Obama. It really looks like they're going to assassinate Obama at some point before he is done with his term. Literally, Obama is the 44th president. The word 44 adds up to 144. I've done this so many times, but the word 44 is 144. Even April 4th, a lot like 4-4, is 144. Martin Luther King died on 4-4. The first president of the United States to die in office died on 4-4. Tons of 4-4 references. Even Tad Lincoln, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Tad Lincoln was even born on 4-4. And Tad Lincoln even adds up to 41, and he died in the year 1871, which is 144 years ago even. Another reason I mention that is because, like I said, Obama winks at 106 here, but as the video plays on, was Apple Falls or whatever, and it turns into the pink lotus flower, and then Obama is sweating like he's terrified, right? So it's just kind of interesting. And then this building falls at 155, I believe. The building starts to collapse, so who knows what it's all foreshadowing. So I guess also if you go back here, right here the clock is on, the two hands are on 12 and 12, and inside this building it's the same thing. If I can ever find a picture of it, doesn't even matter. It's on 12 and 12. 12 times 12 is even 144. It's the 12 tribes of Israel. Game 4 will also be the Cubs' 171st game of the season. So 162, 63, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus 4. 171st game, kind of like the mirrors of 17 and 71. Also interesting, the word 171 then literally adds up to 99 and also 252. Interesting number because the 252nd day is September 9th, 9-9. That's also the day that Queen Elizabeth became the longest reigning British monarch of all time. It's also the mirror of 52. The 52nd prime number is 239. The United States is in the 239th year of existence. You even had Princess Charlotte, who was born on 5-2 this year. Michael Jordan owns the Charlotte Hornets. We talked about Space Jam. Michael Jordan is even from Chicago. Or not from Chicago, but everybody knows him from Chicago, the Chicago Bulls. And the word Wrigley in simple gematria is even 99. And just a few more interesting things. So the word 71, like I said, adds up to 144. And then the 171 is the mirrors, 252. But 144 adds up to 252 as well. So a few more things about October 21st then. I said 71 left, talked about that. The 294th day of the year. So let's just type in 294 to see what that comes up with. It's amazing how this happens. 294. It's 279. Doesn't seem that interesting until you think about the Curse of the Billy Goat, and when the Curse of the Billy Goat began on October 6th, which is the 279th day of the year. Also, if you convert October 21st from Gregorian to Julian, it's October 8th. And that stuck out to me because of the Great Chicago Fire that started on October 8th, 1871. So literally 144 years ago. So it has the 71 in it. And it started on October 8th, which is actually the same as October 21st, converted Gregorian to Julian. Also, I don't do this very often, but look at the Jewish gematria of the word 171. It's literally 1871. So 144 years ago, just like when the Great Chicago Fire began. And remember, it's the Cubs' 171st game. Another interesting thing in this year, 1871, on May 4th, kind of like 5/4/54, the first Major League Baseball game ever was played against Cleveland Forest Cities versus Fort Wayne Kikiangas. But interesting, it's 144 years ago. It was even played 5 months and 4 days before the Great Chicago Fire began. So the game was on 5/4, and then 5 months, 4 days later, the Great Chicago Fire began. Anyway, while I'm on the 171 kick, Zachary K. Hubbard had a video about the 10-day theory, how RFK gave a speech in Roseburg, or maybe it was just Oregon, and then 10 days later he died, and Abraham Lincoln had the dream, and then 10 days later he was shot or died. Can't remember what the whole thing was, but interesting, the number 171, or the 171st prime, is 10/19, kind of like October 19th. And that would be 10 days after Obama gave his speech at Roseburg. And I still think it's going to be Kansas City versus Chicago. And who knows, just a theory that if they actually finish these games off fast, technically the World Series could also end in October. So I was just kind of messing around with some dates here. Halloween is literally 88 days after Obama's birthday. Also, the last day that Pope Francis was here was on 9/27, and Obama's turned 54 days before that day. But anyway, we've talked about how it all ties in with Back to the Future and the train wreck, and the train destroys the DeLorean, whatever, and then Doc Brown comes back with the train time machine. But the movie Trainwreck came out on 7/17, so to 10/31 would be 106 days. Also interesting, I noticed a lot of these games were played at 7:07 p.m., I mean, just an interesting time. It would be 7:07, kind of like 7/7, July 7th, which is the 188th day of the year. And that the train, the Philadelphia train wreck, was literally it was number 188 going, and then the engine number was 601. It was going 106 miles an hour. It happened at 9:23 p.m., 9:23 and 10:06 are the same Gregorian to Julian. Pope Francis visited the White House on 9/23 at 9:23 p.m. this year. Or actually, a.m., 9:23 a.m. But anyway, if you go from 7/7 to 10/21, the day that this Game 4 was played on, it's 106 days. So, one last thing I want to point out here. It's the 111th World Series this year. That's why we talked about how it might have been a Subway Series, because it all tied in with the train wreck, where it would have been the Yankees and the Mets. But after noticing all of the Cubs coding, I don't think that's true whatsoever. But the word 111 adds up to 171. So anyway, I have no idea what's going to really happen. This date is definitely coded, though. Seems too obvious for something catastrophic to happen because of Back to the Future, and everybody knows about it. But who knows, Maybe it's just going to be the day that the Cubs break the curse. All I know is I would definitely think there's something, either more coding or something is going to happen in this game for sure. And I would look for even maybe the 4th inning. But I guess we'll wait and see. Either way, it's definitely coded. I mean, they did this how many years ago? They did Back to the Future, seems like for this sole purpose. So anyway, just have a good night.